into, pick up the guitar and eventually get into, singing for doo-wop groups?
Well, I got my doo-wop groups long before I started playing the guitar. I, on the way home from school, the kids would be uh, singing these songs that they'd heard on the radio, and I had no idea where they was hearing these songs. So I asked them to tell me where they heard the songs, and they told me about this guy named Hunter Hancock who came on 4 o'clock every day. I'm sorry, 4 o'clock every day, and he played only black music, black people's music. So I started listening on the slide to Hunter Hancock, and I loved the music so much. I heard a guy named Jesse Belvin sing a beautiful song, and I was compelled to find this man. I looked him up in the phone book, called him up, told him, Mr. Belvin, I want to sing, I want to sound just like you. He gave me some good advice. Then he took me on his wing and he showed me the way to Hollywood. And I told him I wanted to do sing because I didn't say, I told him I don't know what y'all doing, but I want to be a part of it. So he kind of helped me get involved in it. And that's how I got started singing.
So how long was that?
First,
Mhm.
how long was that?
Well, the
Uh,
journey from, you started out in the business, and then at some point, there's the 103rd Street Band. Of course, we want to know the story. But
that's way down the road.
yeah,
Yeah, I by the time I was 15, when I went to high school, there were I went to a school called Manual Arts. They had about 5 or 6 vocal groups on the campus, and that's how I first got involved with singing in groups because these guys were singing harmony. I'd never heard pure harmony before in my life. Uh, Raw harmony, no piano, no guitar, nothing, just harmony. And I was so taken by that. So I tried to start a group up. I started a group up, but it never got that far. This was when I was about 16 years old. And within a year's time, after I met Mr. Belvin, I made my first hit record. I only been singing about less than a year. I also I had, uh, excuse me, please, I lost my train of thought.
that's
I
okay.
only been singing about a year, and oh, that's the first time I went in the studio. I made a hit record. It was so I was got cheated out of all that money. A year later, I was walking up the streets with holes in my shoes, and the guy who had the money one night, I'm standing at a corner, wait for a light to change, and he pulled up in a brand new purple and white Lincoln Continental.
Wow.
And he stopped at the light. I'm standing there freezing because it's really cold. I looked over and I saw him with my. I turned back and act like I didn't see him. He did the same thing. I saw him look at me, and he turned and did the same thing. And he took off in my car. And I made my mind up then that I was going to be more than just an entertainer. I was going to be a businessman.
First hard lesson of the music industry, and you were a teenager, so you found out early.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So So what was the journey like, after that? I mean,
Well, it was difficult because my father, you know, he didn't want me to do this in the first place. And he was always, he had all these children. He had a job, but it wasn't really supporting him enough. So he wanted me to go out and work. And he would go and find me these dishwashing jobs, these car washing jobs. I hated them. But anyway, I did it whenever I had to until I could get out on my own. Then I the best thing I did was I went to get a guitar lesson. And when I went to get a guitar lesson, there was two guys in town that were the guys that go learn to play the guitar. And I went to this guy's office and I sit down. And we had a concert. We had a little talk for about half an hour, and then he said, "Show me what you know." So I picked my guitar up, and he said, "What's that?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to show you what I know." He said, "Not in here, you won't. Not like that, because I had the guitar on backwards because I'm left-handed.
okay,
Nobody played guitar left-handed in those days. It was I heard you couldn't do it, but I had took on the challenge because that's the only way. My friend had a guitar, I didn't have one, so I learned what I learned on his guitar. So he kicked me out of his office. I went home and decided I have to change my approach to this thing. So I went to City College and I learned how to read music. And within a year's time, I was probably the most sought after studio guitarist in Los Angeles. Lots of people wouldn't do a session without me.
wow. So now I don't know how far down the road this is, but at what point, because I know, at what point did you start to do, did you form the 103rd Street Band? Because I know there's a story like at one version of the band, Bill Cosby had something to do with it, right?
Yes, we did work with Bill Cosby. um, what happened is that first thing out in the studio, we made a record for a disc jockey named the Magnificent Montague, the guy who used to scream, "Burn, baby, burn." So he started playing it as his theme, and people demanded it as they wanted to dance to it. They wanted to buy the record, so they started printing up records, and it became a hit record called "Spreading Honey." After that, uh, I was in the studio one day, and Bill Cosby come in. I was surprised to see him. He was looking for him, and the guy who produced that record were looking for a band to back Bill Cosby on his singing efforts. So he wanted to make some singing album. So uh, we did a song called "Little Old Man." Have you ever heard "Little Old Man"?
No, I've never heard it. No.
It, it was a hit record by Bill Cosby. Yeah, he's talking about a little man sitting at the railroad track and train coming, all this stuff. Anyway, uh, we made that record with him, uh, and we used the soundtrack. The arrangement that we used was from Stevie Wonder's "Uptight." So if you want to look it up, you can. "Little Old Man" by Bill Cosby. Anyway, so then he wanted to do an album. So I did an album with him. not the whole band, just me and the rest of these studio musicians did an album with them. And then he wanted to do another album. Then he wanted my group to go on the road with him and back him up while he sang these songs. Well, he wasn't a great singer, but he loved the blues, so he was doing pretty good. And I was his sidekick in case he got tired or couldn't do something. He called on me to help him out, and we did that for a while. Till you have to read my next book to understand why all of that fell apart. But it all fell apart at some point.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. So, um,
I'm sorry.
no, I was going to just say. So, at that point, with the Bill Cosby project, working with him, did that was the 103rd Street Band in the version that it was going to be before you started really having the big hits in the '60s?
Well, he got us a contract with Warner Brothers. That's what started it all with the Watch Band expanding. He got it, and I started producing the records myself, and we started making hit records. And so, but he got the contract for us to do that.
And weren't you guys the first R&B band signed to Warner Brothers?
We were the first. They were trying to break into the R&B business for 20 some odd years, and we were the ones to break them into the R&B business.
Okay. All right. So, what were those days like? When because you guys were, pretty doing pretty well with the '60s soul music.
Uh, that's you asking a lot now
Yeah.
because I had the problem was I had my band was composed of uh, uh, nightclub musicians whom I had to con into sticking together as a unit because there were no bands like that. There were these guys. Everybody in LA was trying to get a job for $25, $30 working in nightclubs a night. So nobody was pulling together like that. So I pulled them together. Unfortunately, when they got to to be hit artists, they kind of freaked out. And so that was one thing that I had to deal with. I had to deal with all the other stuff, the business stuff, the agents and everything. And I'm telling you, it was a whole lot going on for myself. I had a whole lot of responsibility. So I didn't enjoy it as much as the rest of the guys did because I was always trying to take care of the situation.
You were more than the artist. Like you said, you took on the business of it. Um, so on the creative side, of course, I have to ask you the story, behind, the signature song, Express Yourself.
Not just to express yourself, every song I came up with, nobody liked them. My group, my whole group basically would turn against them because I think it's because people they hear stuff on the radio 10 times and they start loving it. But until they hear it a whole lot of times, they don't understand what's happening. And I think that's the problem. Now, express yourself, nobody like it.
Really?
Nobody. I had my band, the the horn section of my band didn't even want to play on it. They said they didn't want to play on it because it was a piece of junk. The
Wow.
president of Warner Brothers, he didn't like it. Uh, a disc jockey we were working for when it came out, he didn't like, nobody liked Express Yourself. But I knew what it was. So I knew it was a hit record. I knew if the people got to hear it, it was going to go. Because there's got to be another million people like myself out there somewhere.
So what happened when you guys took it on the road and performed it live?
People loved it. They loved it. And the guys that didn't want to play on it, they all started putting on dark glasses. So they wouldn't have to look me in the eye anymore.
Wow.
Anyway,
So
yeah. Hey, our first huge record was Do Your Thing.
yeah.
They told me, don't put my name on that. I put it out anyway, and it was out. I forgot about it. Actually, it was out 8 months. And some disc jockey called me, Georgie Woods from Philadelphia, wanted us to star on his show. I said, star on your show? Uh, who's on there? And he started calling off names of all the people that I look up to. I said, well, what record? He said, told somebody he don't know. Said, do your thing. I said, you kidding? So you're number three in Philadelphia. Uh, I called the guy at the record company. He said, man, this guy called me from the man's pulling your leg, Charles. That record's dead. We stopped tracking it 3 months ago. I said, but at least call the man and find out. He said, okay, I'll call you back in 15 minutes. 5 minutes later, he called me. I can't believe it. You're 93,000 in Philadelphia alone. I never heard such a thing with an R&B record. And that's how Do Your Thing took off.
So
And it's so, I'm sorry.
how did you feel about? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know how you felt financially, but when you found out that Express Yourself was being sampled by N.W.A, I mean, what did you think when you heard it?
That was a critical time in my life. I had I had come to the conclusion that show business was no longer for me, and my wife was working at a bank, so I told her to look out for me uh, a job, a day job. So she brought me this man's card who owned a trucking company. I called the man up. We had a conversation. Uh, at the end of the conversation, he asked me, "What you been doing before?" I said, "I was in music." He said, "Well, you ain't the Charles, right, are you?" I said, "I think I am." He said, "I ain't giving you this job. I can't give you this job. You don't want this job." I said, "I do." I was driving the truck. I said, I need the job. He said, "I ain't giving you this job. You got to keep doing what you do."
Wow. So
And yeah, I,
so
uh,
the sampling, so that was around the time when the sample came along.
2 weeks later, my son called me. "Dad, you got a hit record." I said, I never heard it on the radio, so it ain't no hit. He says, "N.W.A, they selling it out of the trunk of their car." I said, "Oh, that's ridiculous." So I hung up the phone. A couple of days later, he called me again. "Dad, you got here now." I'm going to go down to the record store and see what this is all about. So I walked out of my door, and the little guy that lived next door came by in his jalopy playing Express Yourself on his in his car on cassette tape. So I went over in his driveway and said, "Man, that's my song." He said, "Charles, you old school. This is the newest stuff." Here, shit. this that you don't know nothing about nothing like that. I said, it's my song, man. He said, man, you jive. I said, give me that tape. He gave me the cartridge. I looked at it. I said, I'm gonna show you whose song this is. I looked at it. Express Yourself, written by Ice Cube. He said, I told you. I said, no. So I went in the house. I took the number of that company out and I called. They said, I told them I didn't think they could get away with this. So she gave me Ice Cube's number. I called Ice Cube. He tried to talk me out of a piece of my song. I told him to go to hell. And that's about the size of it. And then less than 3 months later, yourself for their TV commercial. And from then on, it's just been like that. All every year I'm doing. I got over 100 television commercials around the world,
Wow. All right.
and and I'm thankful.
And to think that you knew years ago when everyone was critical of it, you knew how important it was. You knew it had a pulse.
Oh yeah, I didn't know it was going to do this. I knew it was a hit record, but I had no idea it was going to do what it's done.
Yeah, that's incredible. So
It's taken very good care of me, and I'm thankful.
I'm glad to hear that. That's cool. So just to bring things currently, I know that you released your first book in 2016, From Where We've Come, and are you re-releasing it? And I know you have a new one now. Is that correct?
Yes. Have you ever read my book?
I have not read it, to be honest. I have not read it yet, so it's on my to-do list.
Okay. I think you might enjoy it. I've read it 21 times.
I'm sure I will. It's a very interesting story. Like I said, to come from a cotton plantation to where you are now, that's amazing. So, can you tell me something about the new book?
New book, Express Yourself. It's about, it picks up from where the old one left off. Actually, I shouldn't say old book because people still read, call me about it. It's the book is about my life in the cotton patch and what my family went through with this cruel sharecropper owner and how we got to California. It ends at Union Station, where we exit the train at Union Station. And this book picks up where it left off. I left off in elementary school, my last year in elementary school, and I started hearing music when I was about 14, hearing secular music for a change, excuse me, and got involved in the music. And I'm surprised myself of what I've done sometimes uh, with the music. But I had to do music because I had a day job, uh, and I was with a company, we were making portable sewing machine cases. And uh, the boss asked me to teach this Hispanic guy what I was doing. I did it. And then sent the guy out one day to tell me that he had got a raise. I had never got a raise. So I went to the boss and said, why haven't you given me a raise? He said, I ain't going to give you one. If you don't like it, quit. At that point, I was actually paying the rent for my family's home where we were living. and I couldn't quit. I didn't want to quit because they depended on me. So I went back in there and started working. He came in and said, "Come in the office." I went in the office. He told me, "Since you ain't gonna quit, yo, you fired." I swore from that day on I wouldn't work for another person. And
Wow.
that's why I had to do what I did.
So music was that, the road to true independence and expression for you. So express yourself. You meant that in more ways than one, it sounds like, you know.
Well, if you want to put it that way, that's cool.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Um, you released an, you put out a you put out a new blues record. I did hear that. Your
Okay.
so yeah, so you still make music? Still, you still have that creative drive?
I just made that one. What you think about it?
I think it was for me it was a nice throwback, because my blues listening, I'm not gonna lie, it's been pretty limited, but I thought it was nice. I thought it had the emotion, it had that blues feeling, it was that authentic, because some people take the genre and they like to mash it up, but it was, you took it back to the roots.
That was my total intentions because we're losing it. Everybody else has tried everything to try to take that music from us and try to pretend that is that the real thing don't exist anymore when you got all these copies and you try to water stuff down and bury it. And I'm from Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the blues was born. And I think that's my only contribution I can make right now is to try to save that feeling that you're talking about. Try to because we're going now into artificial intelligence and all that stuff. Ain't no telling what's going to happen to our music. If it'll survive at all, or that feeling that I'm talking about, that you're talking about, is erased. That's one of our major problems is why we kids are killing each other, everybody's shooting each other because the music is no longer what it was supposed to be. It's all electronic bull dookie. So, so I'm trying to say that what you're talking about, that you hardly put your finger on it. All you can do is feel it, and thank God for it.
So does that mean you don't listen to any contemporary music?
No, I don't listen to it because it's unhealthy.
Okay, okay.
It's not maybe not all of it, but for the most part, it's electronic signals. It's created and it's played with a metronome. Hell, anybody can play with a metronome.
You ever heard of Gary Clark
So
Jr.?
now I haven't heard of him.
Okay, so he's more like a
What does he do?
contemporary blues player. I think he's someone who, tries to stick to the roots of it, and I think his music is something like that. So he might be worth
Gary,
a try. But you know, um,
Gary, Gary. Okay,
yeah,
I'm
Gary
sorry.
Clark Jr. Yeah, he's someone who's in the blues genre that's around these days. So now, is the first book still in print?
Oh yes, you get
Okay,
it at Amazon. Get it at Amazon all day long.
okay.
Um, yeah.
So let me ask you
My
this:
set.
with everything that you've done in music, I mean, what are you most proud, of your legacy? Like what are you most proud of?
Hmm. Nobody ever asked me that before. Uh, well, I'm proud to express yourself. I'm proud of Loveland. I'm proud of everything I've done. And I'm proud of, I have so much other stuff that people have never heard that's out there, but people have never heard it because Warner Brothers or ABC down here, nobody's behind it. Um, that I released myself, but I'm proud of my music, and and I'm proud of the fact that I'm still here to make some more. Yourself.net.
Okay, great.